Hello everyone and welcome to another one of Emma's Snippets. Now today I wanted to do a message to new coaches, okay? And I've gone so off what I usually do, I've even made notes. So basically I've now finished my second year of business and I'm going into my third. And I've finally got myself to a point where I'm making enough money consistently that I feel like I myself can consider myself a business person with a business that's flourishing, or etc. But it's not been an easy journey, and I thought what I would do is I would share some things that I've realised and learned along the way over the last couple of years. So that's before I went full-time and since I've been full-time for a couple of years, to see if it helps you, okay? And to caveat, once again, and you need to remember this whenever you're listening to anybody else, these are my experiences. They're not anybody else's. You may not agree. Other people may not agree. But I wanted to be transparent and authentic with you because there are so many stories whizzing around out there. And it makes it really, really hard to figure out, you know, what you should and shouldn't be doing. And on that, I'm just going to make a note of another thing I'm going to mention to you at the end. Okay. So the first thing is think about alternative incomes. Okay, so when I came into coaching, I handed in my notice. I had a 3-month savings. I put my flat on the market. I was going to move in with my mum, but at the time I was getting close with my boyfriend, so I ended up moving in with him. Okay, it was not enough. It was not enough. The flat took longer to sell than I thought. I owed money left, right and centre. I got myself in a right 2 and 8. Okay, so I have earned quite well over the last year. My profit margins are comfortable and I'm really proud of myself of what I've achieved, but they're not all from direct coaching. I've got other income revenues. I do a bit of consultancy work. I do extra little programs. I do some facilitation. I do some mentoring. All of these different things, you know, I create stuff for Etsy. I'm going to do online programs. I know people who have part-time jobs, whether it be in their original field where their expertise is, or because they want to see themselves now as completely separate. They've come away entirely and they do something completely different, like they've basically got a job in a shop or retail or something like that, just to keep them ticking along. And I think this is really important. And the reason is coaching as a career doesn't work if you're needy. If you need the cash and you're trying to sign a client up and all you can think of is, I need this, otherwise I'm not going to be able to pay for my mortgage this month, the likelihood of you signing that client is a lot lower than if you turn up like, my bills are covered, I'd love to work with you, I think you're brilliant. So that kind of cushion really helped me personally shift. So once I had that different income, my coaching then took off and I signed more clients and I got more money from coaching itself. But I couldn't do that whilst I was desperate for the money. And we all hear about money mindset, you know, and it's in your head and rah, but it bloody isn't, is it? I mean, if you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got a mortgage to pay. All right, so worth considering. There's no point getting yourself in a hole where you feel desperate. Having other alternative incomes isn't you failing, it's you paving the way for a more successful, more comfortable business. I'm a big fan of being cynical. But one thing I realised and I learned early on is to try everything first. So I signed up for HPC's launch programme. I was on launch 18 and I did really well out of it and I threw everything at it. And I mean everything at it. I was, in their language, on the court, right? I was doing everything they said. Now, when I was in it, I loved it. By the end of it, I wasn't so sure. And there are parts of it I didn't like. But I tried it. Then I took the parts I did like and I adapted that for me, which is probably what they tell you to do anyway. But my point is there are a million ways to market yourself, to get clients, to coach, to do whatever it is you want to do, right? There is nothing wrong with being cynical. That doesn't work, that does. But try it first. Try it and then be cynical. Because if you've given it a go, you know it's not you. You don't really know otherwise. Okay, but I really am a massive fan of being in alignment with yourself. So for instance, with me, one of the elements is to connect with people, as many people as possible, keep spreadsheets, all of that jazz, send them some sort of message, personalise it, and then when they say something, you say, oh, I can help with that and try and generate clients that way. I didn't like that. That didn't work for me. It felt impersonal. It felt inauthentic. I felt sleazy. I just didn't like it, right? It just didn't sit right. So that's why I don't work like that. I haven't for a while, but I tried it and I did get clients from it. It did work for me, but I didn't like it. You might do it and think, oh my God, as a system, this is fantastic. So case in point, try all these different things. Business coaches. Not all business coaches are created equal. Okay, so I've fallen into that trap. I've worked with a couple of business coaches, and I ended up feeling like I was doing, like a college project. Like they had me working on things that I was doing just for it to be marked and shelved. It wasn't helping my business. And one thing to remember with business coaching or courses or anything like that, how they sell it to you is how they're going to get you to sell it on. All right. So if you're talking to someone that's telling you how you make a certain amount of income a month, how you get a certain amount of clients, and they've pushed you hard and you felt bullied into signing up, then you will be pushed to bully other people into signing up. That's how it goes. They are showing you in that interaction of onboarding you how you will be taught to onboard. Now, it might be that you love that. It might be that you think that pressure works really well, that it gets people thinking and moving and motivated. Excellent. It might be that you hate it. It might be that the soft stuff doesn't work for you and you're like, well, if I'm just being all like, oh yeah, I'm here if you want it, rah, rah, then no one's going to come to my door. It doesn't matter how you do it. Just know that if they're trying to onboard you and it makes you uncomfortable, that's what you're going to be doing with their advice. You don't always need a coach. Now, this one is massive. This one to me is massive. Now, if you feel that having a coach is a waste of time and a waste of money, then my friend, you shouldn't be a coach. Because the message you're sending out is going to be, what I do is worthless. But don't believe the hype. You do not always need to be spending money on another coach for you to develop. There are things you can do on your own, and there are things you can do in your community. LinkedIn, there are so many coaches. I've made some amazing friends through courses and LinkedIn. They're just people I chat to share ideas with. I won't pay them. They won't pay me. They're just my community. But we can bounce off each other. So having a coach is excellent if you've got the money and the time, etc., etc. But you don't always need it, okay? That's a fib that someone is telling you to onboard you, okay? And so when they onboard you, guess what? The other thing related to that is if you're just starting out, please, for God's sake, don't coach coaches. So if you're a coach and you meet other coaches and they say to you, I really like your style, I'd love to work with you. Amazing, all right? Amazing, go for it, that's fantastic. But please, please don't niche yourself as something that you have absolutely no experience with, especially when you're starting out. If you've been doing it a while and you've got a business up and running, then okay, it makes sense to show other people how to do that. But it's very easy to fall into this trap because honestly, from my experience, it's easier to coach coaches because they're already warm and they're easy to sign up. They've bought into the concept and they know what it means. You just got to give them a few lines that make them feel heard and bada boom, they're yours. Okay. Signing up non-coach coaching clients is harder because you have to prove your value. That's a learning curve that you need to go through to perfect your art. Okay. It's hard, it's tough, but you need to go through it. So for goodness sake, don't start out as a coach for coaching. Similarly, niching, I go up and down in it. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. At the moment, I do. I work with people in property. Other times I don't. Again, very much on you. Try it and then see how you feel. But if you have never been an entrepreneur, don't coach entrepreneurs. If you have always been in, say, tax, don't coach artists. You need to have some experience and some understanding for these people to come and work with you. And it's not because you're not good enough, because you absolutely could coach these people if they came to you. But it's because you have to have a know, like, and trust ability. And people can sense when you don't really know what you're talking about. And you won't attract the people you need to attract to have the clients. If you're doing your thing and somebody from a different sphere comes to you and says, I love what you do, I'd love to work with you, then great. And then you start building up the experience and then you might be able to do a complete shift. But from the outset, when you're new, stick with what you know and what you're comfortable with. There's no point trying to take over the world in the first 5 minutes. It doesn't work like that. People can smell it and you won't develop the know, like, and trust. Okay. Visioning alone is not enough. I've seen quite a few coaches, some of which were good friends, not make it beyond the 6-month year mark because they were so into the idea of just visioning and journaling, but they didn't do the actions afterwards. Okay, so the visioning is great. The picture, what you should be doing, what you want, how you want to achieve it, you know, how you're going to make the money. Because we know from a neuroscience point of view, with the wiring, that makes the next steps easier, right? Your brain goes, oh yeah, this makes sense because we know this is coming. We're going to do that, blah, blah, blah. It makes sense to do, but you have to do the actions. You have to do the actions. And I've seen so many people, some of them very good coaches, in my opinion, fall foul of thinking that if they just explore themselves, if they just journal how they feel, if they just put it out into the universe, it will come back. You know, if you put it out into the universe, and you believe in universal law, that means the universe will give you the next steps. You still have to take the steps. So be prepared to take action. And that means consistency. It's boring, I know, but it means consistency. It means showing up. It means doing the work. All right, okay. Don't trust the stories. This one was a big one for me. So when you're first starting out, there are all these glitzy coaches that seem amazing, and they'll tell you, I can make you make £100,000 in 3 months. Or they'll show you their bank account and they've made all of this money, right? And you're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Now, some of those people are bloody good at what they do. They really are. Some of those people are charlatans, okay? It might be that they did. I know of a coach that made silly money. I think it was like 80k or something. I mean, you may not think that's silly money, but my opinion, silly money in a couple of months, right? I think it was about 80k. They released this program. It did fabulously. It was a group coaching one. They got a huge sign up. They did really, really well. They are still pitching on the fact that they are a successful coach that makes 80k on a single program, even though that was a couple of years ago and it never worked again. Now, that's fine. That's life, right? And you will find this in your business. You'll have peaks and troughs. You'll have things that go really well one time and that don't another. There might be a reason. There might not. It might be marketing. There might just be, you know, the wrong time of year. It could be anything. Okay? And it's not a lie. But what I'm saying to you is, when you look at these people that you assume have got their shit together because they've been doing it a while, a couple of years, right? Don't buy all of the stories. Be a little bit cynical. Okay, trust your gut, trust your intuition. Really, if you're working someone, I would recommend you do it because you like them and they make you feel good and they make you feel empowered. All right, trusting posts and stuff, it's not enough. So just be wary of that. I hadn't expected this post to be so cynical. It's coming across as really cynical, but hopefully it's helpful to you. Creating balance. This one had me big time. I had a few weeks at the beginning of this year where I felt really low about my business. And that was because I had turned it into a mini corporate. I was doing the connection system. I had all the spreadsheets. I was working like 12-hour days. I wasn't turning off from it. And I suddenly realised this is exactly why I left corporate, right? I never wanted this. This is why I left. I left because for me, success isn't just income. I wanted the time. I valued the time and the space and the less stress and the having control and, you know, having lunch at, 11 a.m. if I want to, which happens regularly. But the same is true for the other side. I have also seen quite a few people fall foul of the this is my business, I do what I like bit, and basically turn up for half an hour every day or every other day and then spend the rest of the day doing whatever the fuck they want, which is great, but it's not going to earn you money. It's not going to get you clients and it's not going to build your business. There is a level, there is a balance. You have to do a certain amount to build this from scratch so that people are aware of you, people know you, you exist out there, and that you feel like you kind of created the processes and the system so that if you step away, they carry on working on their own. That's the aim. That's the point you want to get to. That takes a few years. I mean, if you're good enough and you're clever enough and you've got help outside or whatever, then maybe not. Maybe you'll smash it and you'll have that up and running in 6 weeks. But the truth of the matter is, for people out there, in my opinion and my experience, people out there need to know you. They need to see you, and you have to create your own systems and your own sense of business in yourself for it to not just be like a hobby. you know, and that's how you start creating it into a business and not just be something that you do on the side. I have seen some wonderful people throw away their opportunity because they ran out of cash because they didn't really do the work. So it's finding the balance, and the balance that's right for you. What else have I put? Yes, people have to know you first. Well, I've just covered that. So in my experience, my business started picking up when actually I was told by other people that I had an online presence and a voice and a brand, and I didn't believe them. I was like, no, I don't. I haven't seen this. I feel like I'm getting nowhere. People started telling me that. Then the business started trickling in afterwards, and then I started getting people saying to me, I love your posts, who I'd never even seen before. Oh, I follow you. I was at an event, someone come up to me and was like, oh my God, are you Snippy from the internet? You know, these things started to happen. That takes time. That takes time, and people just have to know you, and people can only know you if they see you. It's the age-old traditional, easy as it said, you know, you're either visible or you're invisible. Okay, and so all of that behind that, that's your work to do, whether you're comfortable, how much you want to be visible, how much you want to share. That's on you, your choice. Don't let anyone tell you either way. But if no one sees you, no one knows you exist. And this whole I've been in business an amount of time bit, that doesn't really work if you're not speaking to people. No one knows you're doing your business. If you've spent 6 months working on your website, that isn't really 6 months in business. That's 6 months of hiding. So tough as that is, people have to know you. Know, like, trust. You know, straightforward stuff, really. It's all the stories in our head that stops us getting out there and doing that. So that's something I really want you to think about. Kudos comes from time served. So I realised, and this is very cynical as well, I realised that there's a bit of a pyramid scheme in coaching, that I believe that the people that coach coaches are the ones that get lots of clients and do very well, and the rest of us have to kind of graft a bit more, because as I said earlier, getting people on board and knowing you and all this sort of thing. But also, a lot of people try this industry. A lot of people love the idea of it. They leave their corporate jobs, whether they're made redundant or they have mental health crisis or they just fancy a change and they make the leap. A lot of us come from a secure background, often corporate, to try this. And what happens is there's about a year, maybe a year and a half, maybe 2, drop-off point where the savings are gone. You've missed the team, you haven't got a consistent enough income, you feel like you've tried everything and you haven't figured out your voice, and you fall away and you go back to work. So there is a sense of kudos that I feel you get in the industry just from being around, and again, being seen to be being around. So there is an element of, if you can just make it to a certain distance, you're already doing well and you're probably more likely to be okay. So if you're new and you've been around 3 months and you're only just starting to get out there and you're only just starting to be visible, but you feel like you've been doing it forever because corporate life was shit and hard, right? And it's frustrated because you're not getting this yet. Don't beat yourself up. Honestly, don't beat yourself up. These things take time. They do. And if you can find a way to just keep plodding on, keep keeping yourself there, keep showing up, keep serving, keep helping, keep doing everything you need to do, then eventually you end up gaining an element of respect just from being around. I see it in other coaches, and now I'm starting to experience it myself. I'm starting to have people come to me, talk to me and ask me my advice as if I know. I don't know, but I will tell you everything I think I know. I'm happy to do that, just because I've been around long enough now that the people who weren't going to see it through haven't seen it through. No necessarily fault of their own, and they may come back, but there is kudos in time served. And I had one more thing to mention, which is what I wrote down at the beginning when we first started talking, which was courses. And I can't remember what it was I was going to say. I think I actually already covered it. I think I said about it when I was at HPC, and about doing everything, throwing yourself at it, and then deciding whether it suits you or not. There are so many ways to do this, and none of them are wrong. None of them are wrong. There's just ways that are wrong for you. So have a go, have a play, give yourself time, Take the financial element off yourself if you possibly can, and just enjoy the ride. You are doing something that most people would be jealous of. Most people think you're brave and amazing and, you know, and an inspiration just for handing that notice in and giving this a go. So I wanted to keep this under 25 minutes. I'm at 20. I hope that's been helpful. It came across as more cynical and a little bit more direct than I'd planned. I thought it would be a bit more chatty, but I wanted to share these things with you. A lot of these are things people told me at the beginning anyway, and I was like, oh, yeah. And then I went through them myself, and I was like, oh, my God. So I wanted to share them with you. If you are a new coach and you just want to sound off or just talk about things or explore different ways of doing things and just bend someone's ear, you know where I am. I'm not automatically going to turn you into a client because that makes me cringe. So Happy New Year, you all, and best of luck with it. Go get them. Snippy out.